Welcome to episode 4 of the AWMD Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about the power of connection and the importance of one time with your child.
Yeah.
What is that?
What is what? Connection or one-to-one time?
Both. You're the clever person to do with children.
Apparently from the man who's got the IQ of how much?
Doesn't mean you actually know anything. Having a higher 144.
I thought it was 50 something.
No, 150 is like you broke it.
You broke it.
No, 150 is the top. I mean, 140, 138 is when you're 138 or 140 is when you're a genius. Just because you have a higher IQ doesn't actually mean you know useful stuff.
It's true. Most of the stuff you know isn't useful.
Exactly.
So
that's to annoy my wife.
Jeff. So I guess connection is a simple way that I would probably define it is how in tune and in sync you are with your child and how attenuated you are to their needs, wants, desires, and emotions. That's probably the simplest way that I can explain it. Do you have anything to add on that, or any thoughts on what connection might mean?
I think that's a really fair thought to sort of link connection. It's kind of, from a parenting perspective, it's actually knowing your child. It's knowing their traits, their personalities, their likes, their dislikes, and being able to read their body language and their emotion before kind of even their cognitive brain can catch up. I think that's kind of kind of like husbands, you all know this, your wife's got them telltale signs that, if you don't do something very quickly, like send some flowers or clean up a mess or wipe a toilet seat, a frying pan's going to be sent to your head pronto. And that's a fair understanding of connection, that you can read someone before something happens.
I think that actually requires the adult in that and the parent in that to be emotionally intelligent and to have their own understanding. Like, they have to recognize their own emotions and their own self to be able to then.
That's why it tends to be, husbands that have to do the reading of their wives, because
what, wives have low IQ? I was going to say low emotional intelligence.
Literally. Frying pan moment. Love you,
babe. So I guess then why, so if we know that that's what connection is, why is it important for kids?
I think, to go on why it's important for kids, actually just start analyzing first and foremost the problem.
Okay, that's a good idea.
In today's world, we see it so often in play groups and play zones. Terrorist levels are really high.
It's true.
Children are just behaving like absolute
savages.
I wasn't the most behaved child, but I look at these kids and I go, man, you guys are out terrorizing me. I was a bad kid. I wasn't good compared to the average. So, when you understand, you look at what's going wrong in today's world, your average trip to a fun city will kind of tell you what the problem is, where kids are unruly, they are destructive, they are unable to sit still and focus and listen and learn. It's just next toy, want this, want that, want this, kick, stomp, punch, kick, bite, whatever it is they have to do. You go, that's not normal.
No.
It's not how us as adults behave, I hope.
I was actually thinking about this the other day. This is a complete side tangent, and I'm aware I just do this a lot, but I was thinking about this when we were setting the rules for the play group, and I was like, I feel like such a Karen having to have rules, but
Karen.
But you have to, and one of the things that I had to put in there was okay, obviously toddlers, it's common for toddlers nowadays to have behaviors and hit and kick and bite and whatever, but unfortunately that's not going to be welcome in the play group because it needs to be a safe environment. And I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, in all of my research and in all of my studies, you go back even 40, 50 years, and that was actually not the norm. That was just not the norm in child development, that kids would be biting other children. And it was a conversation we were having about when we went just to that day out, and we were like looking at the nursery and stuff, and it was a conversation we were having about how putting children in, this is a complete side tangent, I'm aware, but how putting children in like a nursery system or a daycare system early breaks that connection with their primary caregiver, which actually causes psychopathic tendencies. And then it made me think, like, okay, so is the reason that there's so much toddler aggression nowadays because so many children, and it's not just a UAE thing where it's like 45 days old that kids can go into a nursery? Like, that's insane. Like, it's everywhere in the world now, kids are told to be put in daycare, nursery, kindergarten, and it's from such a young age, whereas before that wasn't the norm. And so they then had that connection with their primary caregiver, which meant the psychopathic tendencies didn't develop. Whereas nowadays, they don't have it, it's being broken, the psychopathic tendencies are developing, which then leads to the behaviors. It's just a very rabbit hole thought.
Well, it's a rabbit hole thought, but it's it all fundamentally comes back down to the same point: the importance of connection and understanding how connection to your kids can break undesirable behaviors. To date, I have yet to work with a single adult, and in the discussions of their consultations and family lives and family goals and desires, that have said they want to have a naughty child that hits, bites, kicks, screams, and acts like a spoilt brat. I've never once heard someone say that's
Okay.
their desire, and to push the boundary out there against neurodivergence. But I've never once heard someone say, I want to have an autistic child.
The whole like, we are going to get so much slack for this.
But it's true.
The whole like neurodivergence acceptance movement has come from people, primarily in America, who are being diagnosed, quote unquote, it's clearly a misdiagnosis, at an older age, normally late teens or early adulthood, as autistic. Hello, it's just because you grew up on your phone, antisocial. And they are then saying like the world should accommodate them because they're neurodivergent and they should be accepted, and everything, people should stop trying to change them and stop trying to make them do different things. And then that then carries over to the whole population of neurodivergence. It's like, guys, you've never seen a child with autism literally fecal smearing against the wall. Like, I've dealt with that.
Yeah.
Like, you've never been hit over the head by a 13-year-old super strong boy and ended up with a concussion. Yep. You've never seen a teenage girl rip a toilet out a wall. Like, that happened. Like, I've seen these things.
And it's kind of the sad truth. Yeah, people don't want that, and it's the fundamental reality that people need to start getting real and honest with. No one wants to have a naughty child, and no one wants to have a developmentally delayed child, and it's a fundamental truth that people need to accept. And it's the reality of, if those cards are dealt to you, what can you do to reverse it? Because yes, it's not a context of, I want my son to be an athlete, I want my son to be a musician or a painter or a mathematician or a chess player. Those are what you would call traits, normal traits of societal development. So it's not something you can, if Ellie ends up as a painter instead of a musician, it doesn't matter per se. But when you've then got a non-verbal level 3 autistic child, that's not something anyone wants. And therefore you kind of have to go, in terms of level 3 autism is the extreme end of the spectrum, and naughty child is the other end of the spectrum. And you go, no one wants to be anywhere in that spectrum. Everyone wants to have a nice obedient child that listens to what they say, sits quietly, can play with them, and isn't based around kicking, screaming, and buying things.
I mean, how often do we say this? And we literally say, we're like, we enjoy our daughter. Like, I have fun being with her. And I mean, family and other people that come and whatever, they all say the same thing. And it's to boast on, God and also our daughter. But like, it's rare. I mean, I think I've literally only ever met maybe one other kid that I would hands down say that about, which is the little boy.
Yeah.
But aside from that, most kids, you're kind of like, oh, you're just a bit of a punk.
Yeah.
In the nicest way. And I get it, they're learning and developing, but it's our role to shape how they learn and develop. And if we're not doing that, if we're not connected with them to do that, then of course they're going to develop in ways that are not appropriate.
And that's why, to come back to the topic, it's why connection and one-to-one connection is so important. It's, you'll know better than me, but have there been any theories or studies done that show some form of link about parent-giver connection?
100%. So one of the biggest ones is Dr. Gordon's attachment theory. And he specifically speaks about disciplining a child and how if we discipline a child from a place where there is no connection, it will actually lead to more problematic behaviors, and it will lead to more disobedience, more outbursts, more tantrums. But if we discipline a place from a position of connection or emotional attachment to that child, where we've first built a meaningful relationship and we're then able to step in and discipline what's needed in that moment, then it actually fosters and promotes healthy development for that child. It promotes a better bonding and a better relationship between the caregiver and the child in the long term.
So, so studies and data shows that there is a direct correlation to attachment and then positive and or negative behaviors.
100%.
So, what sort of like stuff, or like what we're talking like, you got to spend like 20 hours a day in focus connection? Like, what is it that stuff was talking about?
Well, this is a really interesting point, because again, I think things change a lot across the course of time. And it's one thing that I know I specifically said to a lot of my families that we work with, and the research suggests as well, is just small, manageable chunks of time that are quality. So 10 to 15 minutes, and not in the whole day, obviously, 'cause no one can survive off 10 to 15 minutes the whole day, but just here and there, 10 to 15 minutes of undivided attention, undivided time. Put your screen down, like put your phone down. When your child comes and speaks to you and wants your attention, drop the phone and turn and look at them. But that sort of 10 to 15 minute block of time throughout the day consistently, giving them quality, eye contact, making sure, especially with the younger kids, like getting down on their level, playing with them on the floor or wherever that height level is. That's so important when you're communicating with them as well, rather than being above them, coming down to their level, so that there's always that eye contact and that actual engagement. That's so important. Following their lead for a certain amount of time and where it's appropriate, so that you're actually showing an interest in what they're interested in. And in turn, by you following their lead, they are then more willing to follow your lead when it then comes time for you to do so. And so that's what's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, so it's not actually that long. It's only 10 to 15 minutes of focused time. And I think it's obviously, the biggest sort of thought for people is that people can spend more than 10 minutes doom scrolling on the toilet, whereas 10 minutes of focused, undivided attention with a child just seems too long.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of reality. It's within a marriage. No one, to my knowledge, wants to have a marriage where there is no connection. And there is, to my knowledge, not a single human being that does not get irritated if mid-sentence someone picks up their phone and starts doom scrolling or doing something on their phone. Maybe it's normal, but to my knowledge, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for our kids. You have to remember, kids have not yet developed sound mind, reason, and logic. They are much more emotional based humans, which means they are going to be more prone to extreme swings to the left and right based upon the way we behave.
Yeah.
So when we are trying to spend time with them, or they see we are around them, it is important we do give them the undivided attention versus half attention, which they pick up on more than a sound logic mind human being. Whereas I could be here and go, oh, she's had to go on her phone because it's a work call. Okay, I can understand it. A child doesn't understand it. They just see that they are being, for lack of a better word, but probably the only word that's relevant, is rejected.
Correct.
And that's what then can start to stem the negative emotions from that.
And so it's really interesting. There was a study that was done recently, and they found that parents who were on their phone a lot whilst interacting with their child had a higher correlation with challenging behaviors, problematic behaviors, tantrums, etc., and just non-compliant, disobedient behaviors. Whereas parents who were more willing to give them that quality time where it was undivided attention. So you're not, multitasking and cooking, you're not on your phone, you're not, doing all those other things that might require your attention. The children had, this is crazy, they had better sleep, better emotional intelligence as the child. They had increased language comprehension skills. They had a decrease in challenging behaviors. So all of those things are very important for a child's development and for their overall well-being, but also for a family unit to function well. Because as we've already touched on, if your child's tantruming the whole day, disobedient to everything you say the whole day, you as the adult are stressed and you can't manage that day in, day out. Like, it makes your life feel burdened. And so it then creates such a disharmony and such a disruption in the peace of a household, versus if you have a child who is willing to listen, willing to cooperate, who sleeps well. I mean, like, who doesn't want that? And who's able to communicate effectively.
So like basically from 10 to 15 minutes, both parents, couple of times a day, kids got all of that benefit.
Yeah.
Better sleep, better language,
Yeah.
better obedience / cooperation with a decrease in negative behaviors. That's mental.
Yeah.
You look at that and you just go, come on. As a human being, it's worth the sacrifice for what people will be deemed as a sacrifice. And the reality is, I know it's a trap that my mind has gone into, which I must, I overcome, and I must get rid of it. But the human being's natural tendency is, well, when they are, I will. So parents can go, when they are better behaved, I will give them my attention. They're being naughty now, so I'm going to ignore them.
Yeah, but they don't know
better. But the reality is they don't know better. And the reason they're being naughty is because they're trying to get your attention.
Yeah, you have to teach them.
And they can't differentiate between good attention and bad attention. They'll just do whatever they have to do to get attention.
Yeah.
So it's understand that you as the parent, who is the mature cognitive adult, actually has the role of leading by being the bigger person, literally, and humbling yourself sometimes to come down to their level to bring them up. Like, okay, I see you're being a punk now. Let me stop it before it gets too out of control. Let me put my phone away. Let me turn the TV off. Let me put my iPad or laptop away. Let me stop gaming, whatever it is trash that people do. And just go, let me spend some focused 10 to 15 minutes time with you. And then you can then give a warning. Come on, say, okay, Papa, Mama, I'll be with you for 10 to 15 minutes, but then I have to get back to work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's really that simple. That's that you just make very clear boundaries, clear communication. When the time gets near, you just do say, okay, this last play now, then Papa has to go back to work.
Yeah.
And when you put those clear communication, those clear structures into quality time, that is what can make such a huge difference.
100%.
And even for us, I'm reflecting as well. How we recently changed our nighttime routine.
Yeah.
And since we made the change, Ellie's getting to sleep has been much better and much faster. But the biggest change has been normally dinner time is us talking, processing stuff from the day. Then the evening walk is dogs walking, a bit of chit chat about the day. But from dinner time, once we finish dinner, we say, no, everything's about connection, quick family connection time, spend a bit of time doing something as a family, whether it's worship music or whether it's reading a book or just doing a fun activity, or a busy box together, go for a walk, and then much more slower, intentional night put downs has made such a huge difference.
Yep.
She's getting to bed fast, sleep. She's going to bed later, but getting to sleep faster than she was a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Last night she was asleep by 7:30 p.m. Got in bed by 7:15, 7:20. She got into bed asleep within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas the week prior, she was getting into bed 10 to 7, falling asleep at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
The only difference was a bit more focused, intentional time, which again, in the past few weeks, our quality time, for especially from my perspective, being busier with work has made such a big swing.
Yeah.
So it does show, there really is a very important thing that needs to get taken into account when it comes to quality and quantity and how important it is, and then the effect it can have on our kids.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So I guess, what then counts as quality, one-to-one time. What are some things that we can sort of understand, help depict good quality one-to-one time?
Well, like I said, it's following those fundamentals of actually not multitasking, which I think is so hard in today's world because it's so fast-paced, but just carving out that time, making an activity that the child enjoys. That's always important, but then you can also incorporate them into just daily life and daily routines and habits. So, for example, cooking, you can, come and help with cooking, laundry,
yeah.
cleaning, reading books is a great one together, just painting, doing some drawing.
The dogs.
Yeah, like just daily rhythms and rituals and just activities together where you get to communicate, they get to talk back to you and hold a conversation with you to the best of their ability. You get to make frequent eye contact with them. Physical touch is always important, the opportunity for them to be close in proximity to you, to sit on your lap if they want to. Children crave and they need that.
Yeah. I think, there's all things that people tend to not want to do.
And I think it's also remembering, and this is where so many people make mistakes. Even recently, one of the parents that I was working with, it was such a big mistake that she was actually two parents recently, big mistakes that they were making. And they were saying, I'm with her all day. I'm constantly with my daughter. Why is it she still wants more of my time and more of my attention? And I'm like, okay, well, what does that look like? Well, I'm driving her to this class. Okay, but you're not connecting with her. You're driving a car and they're in the back seat watching an iPad.
Connection isn't just being in the same room.
Right. And that's what people forget, And even a mealtime, you could be sitting with them but not connecting. Yeah. And so it's so important to make it intentional and about the child in that moment.
Even from our mealtime perspective, we always add that one question of what does Ellie want to talk about? And that's now, having 5 minutes of what does Ellie want to talk about has allowed for the rest of our mealtime to be able to actually have a conversation that we need. And it really is such an important thing to understand, that a lot of the negative issues that parents face and families face is simply fixed by quality one-to-one. It's the same thing with actually marriages.
Yeah.
And actually it's the same thing with almost even business. The biggest mistake people make is not getting face-to-face and having intentional conversation.
I think you can be present without being present. Yeah. And that's such an issue when you're raising a child, because it affects the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. And it affects everything. It's going to affect their academics. It's going to affect their ability to have relationships later on in life, to manage their own emotions, to raise their own children. Businesses can recover from bad decisions, but we're shaping a human, and that's important. Yeah, it's fundamentally a whole life. In the ideal scenario, you will not bury your child. Your child's the one that buries you. So it's for the rest of your life, either reward or problem so you don't want them to be a punk because they got to look after you when you get old.
Yeah, exactly. So it is really important. And so then with our connection time, do you just do it like whenever you're free, or like do you try and create like a routine? What are the studies, what is the data? I know we have our experiences, but what does science thus far tell us about the importance of that type of quality time and stuff like that?
It's so against what's like popular nowadays, where it's kind of like this whole loosey-goosey approach, but kids thrive off consistency. They absolutely thrive. Again, one of the families that I've just been working with, they were such kind of like a free-spirited, free-winded approach to life. And I was like, no, like let's put some routine and structure and consistency in here. And one of the first feedbacks that she gave me was, I cannot believe the change in my daughter just from adding in some simple, like clear routine structures. And like her daughter was then even craving it so much that she'd write out the night before all the things of her day for the next day, so she knew what was coming up. She knew the expectations, because children need that. They need boundaries. Like one way I always explain it to people is, okay, do you have a diary? Do you have, nowadays people don't really have pencil paper, but like, do you have a calendar that tells you your appointments, your to-dos for that day? Yeah. So, and you need that to remind yourself, so you know what's going on, and so you're prepared for those activities. Why do we assume kids don't want the same? Why do we assume that kids don't need an awareness and an understanding of their environment? Even more so because they've got less language skills to express and to communicate and to ask. Yep. And so routines and consistency is so important. And so establishing, even from birth, just consistent, grounded routines. And I'm not necessarily talking about like, at this time you have to do this and at that time you must do that, but like more think of it like rhythms of the day. And so the way that you've always explained it that I love is like time blocks, and it doesn't have to be at 9 a.m., but it's like in this morning window, in this rough. So, when we first wake up, this is the first thing we do. When we have our lunchtime, this is the things we do. And so that's where it's so important, because when you've got routines, when you've got consistency, again, it's associated with increased academics, it's associated with reduced anxiety in children, which nowadays is a huge issue, and increased language development. And so putting in place expected times where the child knows, okay, mummy and daddy are going to be available, or nanny, or whomever it is, some like grandpa, there's someone that's going to be available at this time, and this is what I can expect to happen. That's so important. It's so, so important.
Yeah, like from our perspective, it's always before a meal time. You're going to have 10, 15 minutes. Off you go get a busy box. This is play alone time. Or you can help by setting the table, your choice.
Yeah.
After dinner, we always go for a walk, get outside, take a dog walk, take the dogs for a walk. That's always a consistent rhythm. The time is not strict, but it is a structure and a rhythm of life that is consistent. When she first wake up, it's always non-negotiable, dedicated one-to-one quality time for 10 to 20 minutes until we all have to go off. Someone starts making breakfast and things like this.
Correct. And so she knows and expects those things and those sort of anchor points in her day. And it's she needs that. She craves that. Like even recently, she started the thing that all kids do eventually, which is getting themselves out of bed and opening their door and coming and finding you, which is good fun. But what is the first thing she asks for? Bible study, because she knows that's what we do first thing, and what she wants, that connection. She wants that time. Yeah. She wants that, immediacy with parents, because it's been established as a routine and a rhythm, but it's also created a stability in her that she craves and that she loves and that she desires.
Yeah, and it's the reality of the importance of rhythm, because once you get a child that's healthy in their behaviors, their cognitive development, it's kind of a domino / avalanche effect of positive results, which is why being structured or strict with the rhythm of life is important. For morning times, one of the best things we have is Zazu. Is it called Davy the dog?
Well, Zazu is the brand, I think.
Yeah, he's called Davy
the dog.
Well, we call him Zazu. And he has two collars. He'll go yellow, then he'll go green, orange, or something. Yellow,
he's got
orange.
red as well.
And red when he's asleep. But she knows to look out for the dog, and especially in her current phase of development, she's understanding the concept of waiting for a sign and then expecting. So she's lying there waiting for Zazu to go yellow, and then when she's yellow, that's it. It's free game. She's out that door, which is kind of the whole point of these tools that can help you as parents help your child develop healthy rhythms, routines based upon a consistent variable.
Yeah.
For her, it's the dog going yellow or the dog going green.
Yeah, she knows that
we're going to go
spend time with her.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing for parents to do when it comes to establishing healthy routines. So is there anything that has been shown to be what you'd maybe say, or you've researched and seen as important non-negotiable things to put into a rhythm of life?
I think one thing that would serve every family really well is putting in a period of connection before a transition. And this is huge because so many kids struggle with transitions. So even,
What's the transition?
So it would be, playtime's finished, we need to go for lunch, for example. Playtime's finished, it's time to go out for a nap. Okay, we've finished our breakfast, let's go upstairs and get dressed. Okay, we need to, whatever it is, it's like moving from one activity or environment to another activity or environment. And kids just lose it with this unless it's handled correctly and unless you've kind of taught it from a young age. And so one of the easiest things to do is establish connection before you go in and offer a transition, because even that example of like before meals, our daughter knows we have busy boxes. So okay, mama's going to prepare lunch now, can you please go and get a busy box? In 10 minutes we'll go and sit down at the table. That's the upcoming transition. In 10 minutes we're going to go sit down at the table. But in that 10 minutes, she's been alone. She's been playing. There's no connection that's happened. And so if I then just finish preparing lunch and jump in and say, okay, let's go sit down at the table, she's going to melt, because she's going to be like, wait, hold on a minute. I've been doing my thing. You've left me alone, woman. Like, who are you? What are you doing? There's no connection.
Oh, but that's a mistake we still probably make quite a lot, to be honest.
Look, we're human. We all make mistakes. But just going in and sitting, hey, what is it? I've prepared everything ready for lunch. Now I'm going to go and enter and reconnect before. So remember, it goes back to that attachment theory of that you have to have an emotional attachment before you can implement any form of like authority, discipline, etc. And so
for those of us in the Middle East, in simple terms, it's like restocking your wasta level.
Yeah, kind of. So you go in, okay, what busy box did you get out? Wow, that's what you've been doing. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, Mama, do one with you, whatever it is, maybe it's the stickers. Okay, Mummy, take one sticker. I do one sticker with you. Amazing. Okay, Ellie, do you want to do one more? And then we'll go to the table together. I've reestablished that bond, that connection. And now I'm in a position that she's willing to follow my lead and she's willing to cooperate and comply with me. And I think that's such a big, quick and easy win for parents.
Especially for helping with troublesome transitions, it's a quick win. It takes 1 to 2 minutes to re-establish some quality time to then be able to transition easier, which prevents a 20-30 minute tantrum. So it's a very quick, simple win, isn't it?
Yes.
So I guess then, thank you for getting this far. But if you have any ideas of yours or your favorite one-to-one quality times, please comment and share them below.
Yep.
And also let us know how you found and what instantaneous changes you found in your children by increasing and focusing on dedicated one-to-one quality time, which isn't just like driving or shepherding them around or taking to another activity. It's getting down to their level with eye contact, with focused engagement in their activity the way they want to play. And that's the easiest, simplest way to understand quality time. Bye.